we play that game. Are we live? Are we live? Are we live? Are we live?
Yeah.
Are we live yet? Are we live yet? The audience will see it in a moment. Are we live yet? Okay.
Oh.
Right. That is low latency. That is seriously low latency. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Welcome to the latest edition of the Hopcast. Go away. It's trying to tell me I'm live.
New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year. All our lovely viewers.
We are
Go on.
drinking.
We are indeed. We are both being wine snobs today.
Yes.
I am drinking red.
I'm also on red.
But hey,
I cannot tell you the brands.
I can tell you mine's an Oyster Bay Merlot from 2018 from New Zealand. But that's just because I read the bottle.
I can tell you mine is alcoholic.
Mine is tasty. So, without further ado, we are not wine experts. However, we are audio tech guys. So, let's look straight.
I like how you missed out expert in that.
I was trying to be typically English about it and not toot our horns. Because as soon as you say, oh, I am an expert in this thing, somebody will go, no, you're not. Because that's
very true.
That's the internet for you. So, today's big topic. Why is the basic info changed? Oh, I'm just gonna update the I updated the name of the stream and everything to be Hopcast 08 NAMM Roundup.
Oh yeah.
And all that kind of stuff, and it's promptly thrown all that out of the window.
Fantastic.
Just to be a massive pain in the backside.
No, I can see it.
Well, you can now because I've just changed it. Hopefully.
Oh, you've literally just changed it.
Literally just changed it this second. Yeah, again, having already done it. But yes, NAMM is what we are talking about mostly today.
Yep.
Because NAMM, for anyone who's watching this, who's not a massive audio tech guy, the North American, is it Musician Merchants? I can't remember what it stands for.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Let's go with that. It is the biggest event of the year, really, in audio, because this is where all the big manufacturers roll up to town with their new products and say, this is what we've got, or this is what we're going to have, this is everything that our plans are laid out, look at our shiny, shiny things.
Yeah.
And we get very excited about it. And we lean quite heavily on guitar stuff, amp stuff. That's kind of our wheelhouse. I mean, I could talk for hours about synths and that kind of thing, but it's not really the channel's wheelhouse.
We know we're about guitars, and we'll just stick with that.
And of course, me and Chris want to talk about stuff that we have in common in the audio world. So, without further ado, let's look at our first interest this year, which was, as soon as this came out, I went, ooh, Dark Glass. So, Dark Glass have completely redone the firstly, the Microtubes amp, the Microtubes 900, is a completely different thing now. It's not got a ton of knobs on the front.
Yeah, well, I think they took what they did as their first step into the amp world and kind of got, okay, well, we can shrink this even more. And it was a tiny system anyway. And now they've got even smaller and a bit more refined. It's the Apple story.
Yeah. But for me, they've learnt with that whole 6-band slider EQ thing from the pedals and gone, right, well, that should be in the amp. And my favourite bass amp that I have, it's now quite old, but it's one of the old Hartke amps. And that's
you've got a full graphic EQ on that.
Yeah, it's either a 7 or 8 band graphic. And once you're comfortable with using a graphic, it can really hone things in for you, because then you don't necessarily need mid, bass, treble. You can have much finer control.
Exactly. I quite like this. You've got the whole external pedal as well now, which is the Switch, I believe. They're doing an external pedal for it as well.
Yeah, I think that's been out. Well, that idea's been out a while, but wasn't there when they first announced the first version of the amp. That was kind of not an afterthought, but kind of it wasn't ready. But it's very clever. It's not just a contact switch. It's got a chip of some kind inside it. So like if you hold the button down, it does something different to if you just tap it or double tap it and things. And yeah, so that's got the B3K and the vintage microtubes in it.
Yeah.
And so otherwise the controls are relatively the same. But the one that's really interesting for me is the Alpha Omega 900.
Well, this was a matter of time. Like, we had the Alpha Omega pedal, and it did really well for him. And it was who was it? The band that you liked that
Carnival.
used it?
John Stockman from Carnival.
That's the one, yes.
Yes, one of the very few people I've heard to make a Warwick sound like that.
Yeah.
Like, I almost went out and got a Warwick after I started listening to Carnival, because if you can get a sound like that, oof.
Oh, yeah.
And not to say Warwicks are bad, there's, in my mind, they did a certain thing. The very punchy, very mid-focus thing. And then John Stockman comes along with this growl and this low end. It's like, hello.
Yeah, exactly. It was a bit more diverse compared to typical Warwick, shall we say.
Yes. So, yeah, the Alpha Omega engine's got the mod and the blend. So it's got two completely different kind of fuzzes in there. And, yeah, they're... one apparently is quite sharp, and the other one's quite, like, doomy and...
Yeah.
But you can blend them both and go completely nuts with it. I think there's a USB on these. Don't quote me on that. Yes, so on USB, apparently you can control them quite a lot.
This will be part of the virtual cab thing, will it be? Because they had that virtual cab program, didn't they, for the pedals?
Yes, I think you can do that. Yeah, cab select. Yeah, so there is... Cool. You can have 3 impulse responses loaded into the amp and switch between them on the back of the amp, or with USB, or with a MIDI controller. They've got MIDI. You can control a lot of it by MIDI now. That's clever.
That's
so that really, for me, throws away the need for the pedals. If I was going out touring, I'd take one of these, possibly a MIDI switching pedal. And
like the SCB kind of thing, just something keeping cheerful that will just do it.
No, I think if I was gonna go out touring with something like this, I'd be looking at like the Boss ES3 or something like that. Those kind of switches, the ones that have got a couple of loop points in them. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen those where you can switch pedals in and out. On that.
Oh yeah. I know which one you mean now.
But it's also a MIDI switcher. It sends MIDI signals out when you change channels, so I would probably have, I don't know, a chorus pedal and a couple of other modulation effects for bass near my feet. Yeah. Switch them in and out, but then have the amp do the rest with the drive and the compression and all that kind of stuff. Just MIDI switched. So I've got a relatively light board in front of me.
Yeah.
But I've got everything.
Yeah. Everything you need. So.
Yeah, I mean, this thing can do 8 ohm, 4 ohm, 2 ohm as well, this amp.
So that's quite rare for the 2 ohm.
Yes.
I don't see that very often. I usually see that in older gear.
Yeah, you do. You see it in some of the Ampeg amps, but 2 ohm means you can have 2 4 ohm cabs running off the same head. So, like, you could use one of these and 2 Ampeg 8x10s. That's just
of course
crackers. But the fact that you can do it, I mean, no one's going to, but you can. And that in itself is
there.
If you run 3 8 ohm cabs, that works out at 2.7 ohms. I don't remember why I remember that, but that means if you got an amp that can run at 2 ohms, 2.7 is close enough. And so you can run 3 cabs off it, so maybe you've got a higher sound cab, a lower sound cab, I don't know.
Yeah.
But that means you've then got the option.
Yeah, of course.
It's got headphone output as well, which with the cab select thing means that you can have like really heavy fuzzes, but also have an impulse response in there.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, if you're practicing with this, what you could do, and what I would probably do, is have one cabinet that's really quite roomy and quite airy that I'd only use for practicing. that would sound wrong live, but on headphones suddenly gives me that space where it doesn't feel like I'm claustrophobic.
Yeah, you're not getting battered by it.
Yeah, but then I just switch away from that cab when I'm going back to playing, because I think these work perfectly fine, this amp, without a speaker load at all.
Right.
So you can use it in place of pedals, you can use it with the headphone now without having to have any load on it.
Yeah, I mean, it essentially kills the whole need of like a kidney bean kind of pod unit and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, the whole self-practice thing. Yeah, this amp does it as well.
Yes,
and
yes, indeed.
That's really rare, particularly for bass. Like, you don't really see that much bass headphone stuff. So this is definitely kind of filling in the spaces that we see. How much are we looking at for these? Because if I recall, the dark glass one wasn't that bad. The B7K one, the original.
We're looking at about 1,000 for these, from what I looked at. 1,000, 1,100. So
it's not bad. It's not a bad price at all for something like this.
Yeah, for what it is, and if these things are solid, like if these things last forever, that is a hell of an investment.
Yeah. Also, can we give props to like Dark Glass's whole amp head design? It's like I've said it before, but Dark Glass are becoming like the Apple of bass amps.
Yes.
It's so sleek. It's just such a nice design.
The one issue I still have with it, potential issue, is that there's no rack mount option.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna bring it. Yeah. I knew you were gonna bring up rack ears.
It's not that I want it to be rack mounted. It's that I want the option.
Yeah.
And the fact that they've not even given me like a couple of holes on the side to mount something to, that's the only bit.
On the sides, then?
As far as I'm aware, there definitely wasn't on the original amps.
That'd be the only thing then, really. But
I mean, if push came to shove, I would probably buy one of these, take the top off and drill holes through and make my own rack mount. I know it's not pretty, it's not a nice solution, and I would not want to do that.
Enjoy to do it, but
no, it would be painful. But much like a lot of things, you know, I would not be happy taking an amp like this on tour unless I could keep it safe in a rack.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
To me, that's part of what a rack's for.
Yeah, exactly. They don't look like amps that you want to batter, kind of thing. Joe, particularly with this kind of design, I definitely want to look after it.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it's built tougher than a Boss unit inside, so you could probably play football with it, but I wouldn't want to. No. Some of the gear that I have is designed to run around the stage and hit things with it. Some of it is designed to be left well alone, hidden at the back. Exactly. Like the tuner and wireless unit and everything that I have in my rack unit behind me doesn't have a scratch on it.
Yeah.
But the bass that I play when I'm doing shows looks like I've been using it to open doors with as an axe.
It's relict.
Yes. Hi to everyone in chat, by the way, on this live broadcast. I've got Martin King and David Ross have both said hello, so hi to you guys.
Hey.
Hey, and anyone else, if you've got any questions or if you want to say hello in the chat, feel free. We are quite talkative with our chat.
Yeah, and anything that you guys have seen from NAMM, like what's caught your eye, what's your probably next purchase from NAMM kind of thing, what's got you thinking?
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, what's your deal? So let's move on to what we've seen. Let's just talk about Slate all in one go, shall we?
Yeah. Let's just crack it out.
Yeah, so the Raven MTZ, it's basically the touch screen that they do, but like the new version.
Yeah.
I can't tell what's different about this compared to the old one. I think it might just be a new panel, a new...
I think it's just a better panel, really.
I think
functionality is the same, software is the same. I think it's just a better screen quality.
Yeah. I mean, they say it's a no bezel panel.
I think it has 10 touch. It has the 10 touch points, which I don't think the original did.
I don't think I'd use more than about 3 fingers at once before I get confused. But the fact that it's there, if you've got 3 of you all trying to automate things at once, that could be cool.
Oh, yeah.
If you're using modern technology like this and doing like a Bohemian Rhapsody style, everybody fingers on the desk. Yeah. Yeah, so it is kind of funky. There's still no support for Reaper yet, so I can't get one yet.
There's not many people speak of their like support for Reaper. Like it's like the black sheep of the DAW family.
Yeah. Oh, had a question come in from someone. What is needed to create a VST drum kit? And do we have any plans on releasing one ourselves at some point in the future? So what's needed is...
Like our own kit, or...?
Just in general. What is needed to create a VST drum kit? I mean, the obvious answer is a great drum kit and great microphones.
That's the start.
Yeah, so mostly what you need is the sound samples.
Yeah.
But you'd need to leave the tape, quote unquote, so all the channels on all the microphones running while you hit every drum. And you hit every drum loads of times, really soft, a little bit harder, a little bit harder.
Yeah. All the velocities.
All the velocities. All the playing styles. Ugh.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, hi-hats are the worst.
Sticks, light sticks, mallets. It's...
And then you've got to find a way to program all that into something that is a VST.
Yeah.
Although you can use something like Slate Trigger and make yourself a TCI file, which is to say, you can make a single drum each on that, and you can do that.
Yeah. Same through Reactor as well. You can go the same route.
Yes, it's a lot of work, but it's doable. But do we plan on releasing one ourselves in some point in the future? Have we been asked?
Maybe. I think at the moment we'd rather release presets for programs.
Yes.
I
think the short answer from me is no. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not planning on releasing one, even though I know I can get great drum sounds. To me, a great drum kit sound starts with the room, and my drum room, it's functional, sounds good, doesn't sound like the big world-class drum rooms. So that's where I use a lot of the top-tier samples to augment a drum kit in those kind of situations. Like a big one I've started doing recently is I've found the old Andy Wallace technique, which is I've started triggering snare room mics.
Okay, so you're gating them and then opening them on hits.
Well, I'm sending the snare out to a copy of Slate Trigger. But I'm not using the close mics from it.
Oh, so you're just using
only the room sound, and the room sound goes every time. Yeah. So that's what Andy Wallace does, because then you get the realism of the real snare. So you get all your dynamics, all your velocities, but every time there's a proper you get that. But it's not like using a reverb unit, because it sounds real, because it is real.
Yeah, okay.
There was a video by Rick Beato where I was just sat with my jaw on the floor, and what he was doing was he played back-to-back a Rage Against the Machine song, an early Linkin Park song, several songs from that era, and the snares sounded the same. And it turns out it was that same ambience type technique that he'd done.
Yeah.
So I tried it a slightly different way to put my own spin on it, and it just works.
Okay.
Because then you get the control, because you can then use a gate to quite heavily gate the real snare, so that you get all the articulation, but you don't get all the wash from the other drums.
Okay.
But then, especially when that's harder hit, you get that big explosion, but without having all the crashes and the hi-hats and everything in that snare mic as much.
Yeah, okay.
Because it's very much a control thing. And yeah, I was just like, ooh. But yeah, at this point in time, we're not planning on making our own drum thing, like the whole Get Good Drums thing. Nolly particularly recorded those drums with Matt Halpin, who I don't have, at Middle Farm Studios, which I don't have. Their drum room's great. Yeah. And in terms of drum rooms in the UK, there aren't that many really iconic ones. I mean, there's Olympic, I think. There's Real World, but even then it's a good room, but it's not an iconic drum room. It's just a good sounding room.
Yeah.
And so that would be a lot of outlay. And then at this point in our YouTube career, I still don't think enough people know who we are, that we'd sell enough copies to justify doing it.
Yeah, it had to be a massive crowdfunding thing to even get this far.
Yeah.
So
there are other things we're going to do first.
Yeah, we've got a few things planned.
Yes. Another question, does Reaper work good with all kinds of music genres? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. Because Reaper is not for a genre. It is a tool to be used as you see fit.
Right. We spoke about this a few times, and I will throw this out there again. So Logic is great for songwriters. It's a good box.
Yes.
Cubase is great for learning. I think Cubase is great for learning because everything works. It's not going to be the most amazing, but it does work, and you can make it work very well. Pro Tools is the big boy box. I think it's more money than it's worth, personally, but that's, I'll throw my hands up, and that's just me. I think Reaper is a great plateau. It's a great surface to build upon. So if you're using third-party plugins, the Slate stuff, bias, all that kind of stuff, it is great for that because it'll take anything.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
I think so. Yeah.
I don't think it's all in one box like Pro Tools or anything, but I can throw plenty of things on top of it, and it's great for that. And, hey, check out our earlier videos on free guitar tones, free bass, and free drums that we did with Reaper, all for free. Great spot. That's a great point to start, actually.
Yes, absolutely. She Studios have just said, is that a glass of wine? Yes, it's it's just gone 9 o'clock Sunday evening for us, so I think it's very much wine time.
I'm not in work for another week, so,
Yes.
No problem.
Martin King asks, any thought on the new Audience Sonos or the IK Multimedia Axe-IO? Now, the IK Multimedia Axe-IO, the Axe-IO I know very little about. I've just looked at it a little bit. Looks kind of cool. You can change the way the DI reacts.
Yes.
I thought that was interesting. But the Sono, I have something to show you. Look what I got. I have a one of these, an Audience Sono. I'm testing this right now. I have been under NDA. I've not been able to say anything. I've been part of the beta testing program for the Sono, and it's fantastic. It's very, very clever. So it's a 2-input, 4-input device, although it's got optical in, so you can have 10 channels running as well. But there are some really clever things about it. It's got a tube, 12AX7 valve, so it's got a preamp on DI for channel number 1. But then it's got power amp drive, and it's got cabinet modelling from 2 Notes Audio Engineering, who I am very good friends with and I do a lot of work with. And they are the exact same cabs as in the Torpedo Live, the Torpedo Cab, and it's been very interesting. The thing that really gets me about this, that's kind of been low-key and no one's really talked about yet, this output. This is a dedicated reamp output from an interface.
Yeah.
I've seen that, I think, was it the UA Apollo, or was it the Antelope Zen or something? Some of the way over £1,000 interfaces have dedicated reamp outputs. This is the first sub £500 interface that I've ever seen that has a dedicated reamp output, so no need for a reamp box. Massive game changer.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And because it's got the whole amp modelling thing as well. Sorry, go on, Chris.
No, carry on, go for it.
Because it's got the inbuilt amp modelling, one thing I was saying, and I'm in the middle of filming a full review for this, it doesn't have like a clean DI capture, so if you've got the whole tube amp thing running, that's what gets recorded, but it's got 2 channels. So if you run a dedicated DI box before any pedals that you've got and get a completely clean capture, you can then reamp that later and also have the tube preamp power amp thing running with 0 latency because it's in the interface. And I mean literally 0 latency, it's immediate. So for guitarists who are really picky about latency, there you go. Yeah, so absolutely. Yeah, I'm really excited to finish that video off and get that out, because that's going to be a big deal for guitarists this year. It's going to be a big game changer.
Absolutely. I was just going to throw up because mentioning the Axe.io has reminded me of something that I did mean to bring up with you in person, and I completely forgot. IK Multimedia do a lot of like free software now.
All right.
Like Amplitube is now a free program.
Oh yeah, I've had Amplitube for ages on the whole free thing, and then
yeah, the custom shop thing, and you've also got the sample tank now, the rack system, the classic rack system, the Syntronic free and stuff.
Yes,
there's a lot of like quite good free stuff. I think maybe we should have a look at the Amplitude free about getting good tone out of that. Kind of like a visit to the free guitar tone video.
Oh, Amplitube.
The free version of Amplitube.
They're on Amplitube 4 now, which is...
Yeah.
But it's kind of modular, so there are still some of the older amp models available. It's a bit weird how they've done it, I think, that you can get the latest amp models and they sound better than the old ones, but the fact that you can get the old ones as well kind of muddies the waters a bit there. Makes it quite confusing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, I just thanks for bringing up about the IK Multimedia and the Axe.io. Have been me.
So there's this whole Z tone thing. So there's you can change the tone of the DI. That looks like the biggest selling point of this.
I want to know how much that I want to know how that works. For one, I want to hear how much it changes, because we've had it a lot. To be honest, to me, it's got to be the same as a tone controller on guitar. I can't tell the difference for the most part. I just know I don't like it off. You know, I'm that guy. You know, I want everything on a full, and I'll just carry on.
Yeah.
So I really want to see how it can shape the DI. I think that was going to be really interesting, actually.
Yeah, one of the guys in chat has just said, "Is this an ad?" Probably talking about the Sono. No, because I would have to be paid. No, I'm just excited to mess around with the new tech. But no, not being paid. No. How many products do we beta test? Not that many, to be honest. Hopefully more as the channel grows. I tend to test stuff after it's been released, really. Yeah. And the more and more this channel grows, the more I'm able to get in contact with these manufacturers and get hold of things before they're released and poke around.
To be honest, the way we get stuff like this probably is better coming from you guys rather than us. If you're tweeting and going, hey, you need to send these guys something to check out, like, you guys push it rather than us going, can I have something, please? It comes off bad from us.
Yeah.
But if you guys are going, so if you went to Peavey or Mua or, you know, anyone, and you went, hey, you should talk to these guys and send them something, that's got to be the best route. So if you want more videos, especially if you've seen something from NAMM and you kind of go, hey, this looks pretty interesting, send it these guys.
Yes.
You know what we'll do. We will go into that whole in-depth kind of look. So tweet, support, all that kind of jazz. We're both on Twitter. Our Twitter handle should be somewhere.
Yes. If I go back to the main, you'll see them. Yeah. So mine, of course, is Hot Pole Studios, as the channel suggests. And Chris's is, hi, it's Chris.
Yeah, I'm really creative.
Yeah, let's get back to talking about NAMM. So the Raven we talked about. It's not all on the website yet. The Blackbird Microphones is something I'm quite excited for. The virtual mic system, the ML1, I've had one for a while. I think it is the dog's danglies, so to speak. I think it's absolutely amazing. And now, as of a couple of days ago, they've announced the Blackbird Microphones. Right. Blackbird Studios in Nashville is one of the best studios in the world, and they have like 1,400 microphones, some of which are unique. Like these, I'm not talking they've got a bucket full of SM58s. They've got U47s coming out of their ears.
I'm gonna be the devil in here. I'm gonna be that guy. Why am I paying for this?
So, not only have they got
the Everything bundle.
Yeah,
I'm being that guy.
No, fair question. I'm gonna buy this week. I'm that excited. So Blackbird have some of the best sounding stuff in the world. So like I said, they've got U47s coming out of their ears.
I don't argue that. I don't argue that at all. I'm arguing I pay for the Everything bundle.
Yes.
Why am I having to pay for the expansion pack?
Oh, the
Everything was meant to be included.
Well, the virtual microphone system is not with the Everything bundle because it's
beast.
Yeah.
I have some of it in the Everything bundle, but I know I don't have all of it.
Yeah, so the virtual microphone system is separated because it's a hardware thing.
Right, okay, so we're kind of getting to that point where VMS is becoming slate drums.
Yeah, well, it's
becoming its own entity.
Yeah,
okay, cool.
I got the...
That's fine, that's all I wanted to know.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah, I got the Classic Tubes 3 expansion for the VMS. Think of it like DLC.
Oh god!
I know.
Season 2.
Yeah, this literally is season 2 of the DLC for the microphone. But what I find interesting about these is like the stories behind some of these mics. They sound good because rather than just this one sounds nice. Like the Telefunken 251, one of the most famous tube vocal mics. There's one in this set, and I was thinking, well, there's already a 251 in the normal VMS, and they were like, this one must have been one that was made in the factory on a Friday when everyone was feeling good, and because this one, the owner of Blackbird Studios bought this mic, and never lets anybody use it. He reserved it solely for his wife.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, because he reckoned it was that good of a mic, and his wife, being a vocalist, is like, this one's for you.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, so Stephen Slate must have been begging on his knees.
Yeah.
But from all the reports I've seen, some of these mics are just that 5% extra compared to the ones that come with it.
Yeah, the standards.
Yeah, and I'm all about that extra 5%. I mean, it's $99 for 5 virtual mics. That's technically not cheap for what it is.
No, but this is the thing, and when we used to work together more, one of our good friends actually said this: if you changed 20 things by 5%, you've created a whole new thing.
Yes,
a whole new beast.
I'm still finding that.
So I get that. I get that whole 5%, but if you do that 20 times, good God.
Yes. Well, that's it, because then you get something that's 5% better into something that's 5% better, so on and so on. Yeah. And these mics, I'm not going to play their demos on stream, but yeah, I mean, from what I've heard, it's just that little bit extra. So I'll be going for it. What else did they release? They've released a drum gate.
Yes, I've seen many people go on about this. I've not downloaded it yet.
But this is something we were talking off stream. I don't think you can download it yet. I think it's coming out within the next couple of weeks.
All right. I know I've got an update here for VSC FG224.
All right. Oh, that's. I think you might have just not downloaded that for a while, because that's a Reverb expansion.
Oh, it's the Verb Suite,
yeah.
Classics. Yeah, I've not downloaded it.
Which does remind me of one of the other things that's coming out, which is another Reverb, the Luscious Plates. Which I'm very much looking forward to. I'm a sucker for a plate reverb. I love a good plate. A lot of my mixes will have maybe 3 plates on instead of like a plate, a room, a hall, whatever. I'll just have a bright plate, a short
just layering plates.
Long plate. Yeah. I'll have them heavily EQ'd to fit whatever part of the mix they're in, but there's just something about plates to me that they just sing in a way that other reverbs don't. Yeah, but that's coming out soon, and that's by Liquisonics, the same people that made Verb Suite Classics. But where Verb Suite Classics, all of the models in there are actually models of vintage gear, like vintage rack units.
Okay.
Even the plates and stuff in there are actually rack unit emulations of plates. Like the 224 is the Lexicon 224 reverb, and the 250 is an EMT 250 plate, but it's like the first digital plate that ever existed.
Oh, okay.
Whereas the Luscious Plates is based on real plates.
Yeah.
So it's not like an emulation of an emulation. It's an emulation of a thing.
Yeah.
So we're getting a step further towards realism. What was the other thing that Slate did? So we've talked about Blackbird plates, Drumgate,
the Overloud
THU
stuff.
Yeah, so that was the THU. As far as I could see, they had this profiling thing. So it's Overloud do really good amp models, and then you could essentially Kemperize it.
We spoke about this. I use their Mark Bass Suite.
Yes.
Mark Studio 2. It's easily my favorite bass amp VST.
Funny thing is, that's getting on a bit now in terms of its age, but it's aged well.
Yeah, that's old.
It's a testament to its quality that it's aged well.
Oh yeah, it still fits. It just sounds great still. So.
Yeah.
You pair that with the Avalon U5. I'm done.
Yeah. Absolutely. You've got a hell of a bass setup there.
I throw in a couple of Dark Glass products. Well, NTS Digital or NTS Labs, whatever.
You got the NTS.
I did. I used the trial and I just rendered everything with it and kept it. Yeah.
All the gain.
So good. So good.
Absolutely. I'm trying to remember if there was another thing they announced, because they said they were announcing 5 things. Never mind. Let's move on. So, Orange, their big thing that caught my eye. They announced more than this, but this is the one that caught my eye, was the Pedal Baby. The Pedal Baby 100. So it's the first clean Orange amp that I can think of, possibly ever.
Yeah.
And it's a solid state amp, so this is real weird territory for Orange.
This is real weird territory for you.
Well, it caught my eye because I think since that pedal show became big, I mean, pedals have become more popular than ever, but they were already really popular at that point. I think that there's just been a shift in what the manufacturers see.
Yeah.
And that a lot of the manufacturers, I think, have realised that it's not just the pedal makers that should be getting in on this.
No, of course not.
There should be the industry servicing that player.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, a lot of preamp users, because preamps are coming back or coming up in a big way.
Oh, yeah.
They should be supporting that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And that one almost is an
amp. It could be like Orange in it.
So this thing's got like tone, volume, and that's about it. It's a Class AB power amp, which means that it's not one of the Class D kind of weightless, gutless things.
This has got to be a bit of a tank.
Yeah.
For what it is.
But even at solid state, you don't need more than 100 watts of power on stage for guitar, really, if we're being honest. Because if you get that loud, what do most sound engineers tell you to do? Turn it down.
Yeah, exactly.
So you may as well have a pedal rig that you can take anywhere. So if you've got your preamps, like Victory have done these big crazy V4 power amps, and I'd really like to get my hands on one of them.
Yeah.
But also 2 Notes do the Le Clean, Le Crunch, Le Lead, which I have, and that one almost is an ad because I've done a series of videos for 2 Notes that's on their YouTube channel about preamps. I'm big on preamps. When I go on tour with my bass rig, I use a 2 Notes La Bass straight into the front of house. And I use the output of that if I need stage volume just into a clean amp, whatever they've got, really, because on stage I'm not precious about my tone, mostly because I use in-ears, so I can't really hear it anyway. It's more just for a thump.
Yeah.
But that's another interesting thing. I think that's who this is aimed at. If this is affordable and cheap and reliable, I reckon this orange pedal baby is aimed at musicians who play with in-ears.
Yeah.
Because if you use in-ears, what do you want stage volume for? You want it so that when you're playing and you go chug chug chug, it hits you in the back and goes dub dub dub.
Yeah.
You don't need...
If you click the buy while we're looking at...
Let's have a look.
Click the buy.
Buy. Sell. Oh, it just gives me a local dealer. Let's just go to the Google. 300 quid.
Go.
£300.
Right,
$2.99. So 100 watts of solid state Class AB.
Yep.
Brand new. 300 quid. That's really quite decent.
That's a good price.
And because it'll be such a clean sound out of it, I could run 2 preamps, 3 preamps on my board, turn them on and off.
Yeah.
So I could have a 2 notes one, but I could also have a Victory preamp. I could even have something like Orange's Bax Bang Guitar pedal, which was essentially a preamp, and switch between them. Why not? It was a really silly name, the Bax Bang Guitar, but it was actually a kind of cool pedal. But every time I saw it used into the front of an amp, it sounded awful.
Yeah.
But then you ran it into the effects return, which is essentially what this amp is. It's just the back half of an amp. It sounded great. So yeah, it doesn't do anything, but it fills a niche.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look at the picture of the back. Like what's it do? Power, speaker outputs.
Yep.
No effects loop, no headphone output, no stupid extra outputs that you're paying money for. One of my biggest issues with a lot of amps, actually, just to go on a slight tangent, is like the Dark Glass amp. That can do a lot, but look at that. It's got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 holes
11?
and a USB, if you count the USB. And that's you're paying a lot for things that most people are not going to use.
Yeah. I mean, back in when my previous band, all I used was my Polydummer DBX. I went straight to the send and return and the effects unit of an Ashdown Mag 600.
Yeah.
Because the preamp wasn't good.
Oh, it was muddy as hell, I remember that.
For what I needed. But I used a power amp. I used it. It was a great power amp. It was a great solid state power amp. And so, yeah, the orange, that's perfect for my kind of thing. If you're using external gears for your telly, you just want something to power it.
Yeah. I mean,
absolutely.
I would almost argue that the Dark Glass stuff is a bit of an exception to the complaint because it's well thought through. But before this generation, literally before this type of thing was thought this far through, a lot of my issues were that there were all these things on the back that you were paying for. Yeah. And a lot of it was useless. Like, all of the last 20 years of Marshall amps, for example, emulated DI outputs that sounded like garbage and never got used by anybody. Yeah. Why not just not put that circuitry in and save me 50 quid when I'm buying the amp?
Do you remember the cab DI? Like on the back of the cabs, they had the DI as well.
Oh,
like an emulated DI. You go, what's the point? You're running a cable there anyway. Just put a mic in front of it.
Yeah. Or at the very least, make me spend more, but make it sound good.
Well, yeah, that's the other side.
Not even from the perspective of a tone snob. I know plenty of guitarists who are not technically minded, and they want simplicity. They stick an XLR into that, and they put it into the desk, and they go, "Oh, that sounds like," and they
let's
never
not do that,
and they never touch it again. Why bother? Anyway, exactly. Yeah, let's move on from this little rant, shall we? So, Music Man, I overlooked this at first. 50 quid. All right, so it's a ballpark figure, but anyway, So, yes, Jason Richardson, Widdly Maestro. He's a damn good guitarist. I'm not really into his stuff, but you are, aren't you, Chris?
Yeah, definitely. The first album is a great to listen to. It is guitar wizardry. It's if you're into like the whole Steve Vai and just like happily listen to whittling for 45 minutes. Jason's pretty much the modern 20-something-year-old version of that, and he's absolutely he's played with I think it was Born of Osiris and Chelsea Grin and all sorts of stuff.
That was his big one, yeah. Which was I can see why he left.
Yeah, exactly. If this is the stuff he wants to play out.
Chug.
But yeah, very much deserving of a signature series if you're going off skill.
Yes. At first, I didn't look twice at this because I just thought, for first glance, it was a Majesty, a John Petrucci signature, which is what he was using previously.
Yep, it was a Japanese 2015 Majesty with the Buckeye Bill top, I believe.
Sure, I'll go with that.
It was a Japanese exclusive. I remember that because I tried to look for one.
Right.
It was a Japanese one.
I remember the Burl top, which is why I kind of looked at that and just kind of, oh, okay, but it's not, is it? It's a cutlass shape.
Yeah, it's a cutlass shape, this one. It still looks like it's the roasted neck of him. We got a Buckeye Bill top. I think the back's mahogany. I don't know, but
that bridge
it's
is
pretty much
huge.
the same spec, but just a cutlass body instead, which is slightly bigger.
It's almost a strap body.
Yeah.
But it's going back towards that traditional thing. I've not had a chance to watch his video, but I'm sure he's got something to say about why.
Oh.
Yeah.
JP's had that signature for years. They don't really do any signature cutlasses, as far as I know. So he's probably a good guy to try and bring the cutlass to attention. I don't think I've seen, bar Jason, anyone actually playing it.
Well, the kind of stuff we listen to, I don't think you would, because it's Music Man's answer to a Strat most of the time. Which is why it's interesting that he's gone back to the more traditional thing. It's not a Strat, but it's geared that way.
Yeah.
It's appealing to that audience, if you will.
Oh yeah.
And so it's interesting that a guy who's so technical would go that way. But if you look at it, it doesn't look very vintage at all. So.
Oh god. No.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that bridge is lifted from the Majesty, or at least very close to.
Yeah, very much. But yeah,
it looks like a good bridge. It looks like you can put your palm on it.
Oh yeah, like that thing's not going anywhere. That's great. But yeah, not much really to report other than it's finally happened.
Yes.
Pretty much since the release of his solo album, everyone's been going on about him getting one. And hey, he has now, so.
He has indeed.
Let's see what happens.
Just before we move on, quick question from the floor. How important is consistency of playing in bass as opposed to the need for compression when recording? Or any instrument? Now, for me, consistency of playing is probably the most important thing on bass compared to any other instrument.
Yeah. I think it should be used for tone. It shouldn't be used as, oh, well, I'll just learn with a compressor so I don't have to hit as hard.
Yes. When I play live, I can play a 3-hour show without a compressor. And that's just 15 years of doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
But that means that I can then back the volume off because I play I play a lot of weddings and that kind of thing. And so you might be playing an acoustic song and then later in the night you're doing full-on rock. And yeah, for bass, consistency is, especially when recording it, it makes life easy. Yeah,
exactly. Like I didn't learn with a compressor, but I played in a lot of technical mel and that you have to be with it, or
Yeah.
you're not,
Yeah.
or you're that guy that's not in there.
But what
So
you were
have
doing,
to
a lot
be-
of it was that thing.
Oh,
and yeah, to get the low end back in the tone, I think that's where the compressor did that job.
Yeah, exactly. It was tonal increase, but it wasn't like, oh well, I'm not going to hit as hard. No, I still beat the hell out of it. So
Yeah, but you did so fairly consistently.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so interesting question.
Consistency.
Moving on, the Boss Neckstone.
Yep.
Have you seen these?
Yeah, so we pretty much said this is kind of like the sequel or the reboot of the Katana.
Yeah, I think so. Although it's aimed at a slightly different market, I think. Because if you look at the top panel, it's got clean and it's got lead. That's your lot.
Yeah.
It's not like clean, crunch, kind of crunch, rock, metal, whatever. It's It's a much cleaner. The market seems to have gone this way this year of much cleaner amps, and then you're expected, if you want drive, to pedal it.
Yeah, because we went through the phase with, I would say, like Line 6 and Roland's, where it was like, we're going to try and put everything on this amp and you're going to love it. It was a jack of all trades amp and it didn't work. Like the Roland Cube, it had lead channel. Oh, there's a pedal and you can pick the pedal and it's got to be this. They all sounded awful.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at the control panel for this now, and this tells me in one go who this is aimed at. This is aimed at non-technical guitarists, because things like where it's got the power amp selection, which is a funky choice between the different tube types.
Yep.
The two on the left, it actually says American, and the two on the right, it says British. So it's literally aimed at people who wouldn't know otherwise, I think. And like the power control on the Katanas was like 100 watts, 10 watts, 5 watts, blah, 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 blah. Here, it's max, half, then 0.5 watts and standby. So illustrating much more to non-technical people.
It's simplifying it. I think it's good. I think it's. By the way, when we say tech, it wasn't like complete shredders. We meant like amp technicality. Not.
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
there are so many guitarists who can play really well, but their thing is not like the difference between one type of valve and another type of valve or whatever. Yeah. And so depending on how real this sounds, I mean, they've got Chris Buckin to do the demo, and he can make things sound pretty good.
See, this is the thing with all these demos. They're always like really good musicians that they use. I just kind of wanted to grab a John that's been busking outside for about 10 weeks. Bring him in. Let's see how he sounds on this. That's who I want.
So I didn't want to spend all day talking about this amp because it looks like it's fairly cool and fairly simple. But the other thing from Boss that really made me cross-eyed was this, the Weiser Tube Amp Expander. So this is a load box, but it's also a lot more. And it really fascinated me. Because this is what a lot of companies have been trying to do, but everything rolled into one. Yeah. So if you've seen the 2 Notes Torpedo stuff, and their Reload as well, which is like their DI load boxy, reampy type thing, and also the Universal Audio Aux box is the new big darling on the scene. This is gonna squash a lot of that, I think. And that's where it's going to get interesting.
You think it's going to make that much of an impact?
I do.
I know I'm being a skeptic, so...
This does a lot of things. It's not cheap, so it's not aimed at the everyman. It's over £1,000 for this thing. But what it does is things like... you put this in between your head and your cab. And you don't need to have a cab. You can run this as a straight load box. You can change the way the reactive load reacts to the amp, so the amp can behave as if it's playing with a 112 or a 212 or a 412. So what a lot of people don't realise about tube amps is they change the way they behave based on what you're playing them through.
Yeah, of course.
It's a two-way street. I mean, with a solid-state amp, they just make noise. But with a tube amp, in terms of millisecond to millisecond, they make different sounds depending on how the speakers are being pushed. Even the speakers make different sounds themselves, but also the amp changes. It's a very organic thing, and that's where the term organic is quite legitimate in terms of the whole tube amp thing. And that's the hardest thing to model, which is why even like the Axe-FX 3, for example, still isn't quite there, even though it's pretty flipping close.
Yeah.
But this thing does a lot. So the way it works is that you put this in between your amp, and it's not an attenuator traditionally. Like what, you know, a power break or an attenuator takes the load and kind of softens it.
Yeah.
This doesn't. This is an entire load box, but then it's also got a 100-watt solid-state amp in it.
Okay, yeah.
So the 100-watt solid-state amp powers your cab.
Yep.
So you've then got volume control on the cab separately from what the amp's doing.
Oh, okay. So you can drive it and turn down the amp.
Yes.
Well, you can drive it and turn down the cab.
Yes, but here's where it gets clever. So say you've got a really vintage amp like a Marshall Plexi. It's got no effects loop to speak of at all, right?
Yep.
Amps that old don't. So this box has an effects loop in it. So you can add an effects loop to a vintage amp. It's got reverb inbuilt into this. So you can then add...
Yeah, I saw that. I was kind of like, really?
Well, it's like the Boss RV500 pedal, basically, inbuilt.
Yeah.
But because it's got its own 100-watt solid-state section, it can add the reverb in before it turns it into a power section. So it adds reverb in between.
Well, it's that where it should be.
Yeah, exactly. And so you can have... It's got solo boost and EQ boost, which you can switch in. It also has an amp relay in it. So say you've got an amp like, I don't know, 5150 or something that's got 2 channels with a foot switch jack on the back. You just put a cable in between this and your amp. And by MIDI, you can then channel switch. So, so you can do all of that remotely via MIDI because it's all MIDI controlled. So, like, if you've got something like a Boss ES8 or whatever it is, those switchers, you can have your pedals on the front of the stage with you, and then you can control all of this. And so you can do things like solo boosts and change all sorts of stuff. And brain melt. And it's got cab modeling inbuilt as well, which has got XLR out, I think. Yeah, so it's got front of house like mic modeling and all sorts of crazy stuff.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, and it's even got like ground lifts separately for a stereo output and a mono output, so you can do separate outputs and not have any buzzing anywhere. Yeah. Blech! Like the amp control, they've got latching switch or a pulse or it's inverted. So
I'm having a look at some of these and kind of go, oh wow, okay.
Yeah, so any amp you've got, depending on what switching they've got, it'll just work. That's...
I like the input level and the ohm control on the from tube amp as well. Just like quick little dials and switches. That's brilliant.
Yes.
Just a nice, simple.
Guitarist friendly, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's guitarist friendly. It's stuff that they recognize.
Yeah. I mean, this whole thing...
It's not some fancy, weird system. It's like, yeah, you know this.
Yes. This whole thing has been very well designed. But yeah, the input level 10 watt there, what they were saying is if you've got something like a Fender Champ or something, the 5 watt practice amp from the mid-70s, they sound amazing when you crank them, but they're not very loud. So why not take the output into here and then run a 100 watt solid state tube section into a 4x12?
Essentially is pretty much take any vintage amp and bring it to the future. Yeah. This is what this box is for.
Pretty much.
Outside looking at it at first, it's not. It doesn't look like much. It's like, okay, so it's a load box. Why do I care? But when you really dig down into this and what it could do, those weird, bitty, bitty vintage vintage amps with a physical tape delay built into them.
Yeah.
That aren't that loud. They're not much louder than a Vox AC30 or something. This is something you can throw in there and bring that into a viable level of using.
Yeah. I didn't even mention, I said it's got an effects loop in it. Yeah. It's also got its own effects in it. So it's got like delays and compressions and choruses and all sorts of stuff in it.
Okay. Oh, right.
So if you want to have them like in an effects loop position, you can just turn them on via MIDI.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's over £1,000. But if you're a vintage amp player and you want to play where your amp is roaring but everyone is not melting and screaming at you to turn it down, there you go.
Exactly. This is the problem with this, I feel, is that you need something like this kind of video to explain why this is great. Because I looked at this and you go, this is £1,100. Are you kidding? Like, why would I need this?
This is where I would quite like to get on the phone to Boss and be like, excuse me, Mr. Boss. Can do video, please. Actually, I do know. I'll see what I can do. If you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah, exactly.
See what we can do.
Yeah, we've already been speaking for an hour. We should probably jump in quick to other things.
Oh, yes. So, a quick 1 minute thing here. The sponsor spot. Today's video is brought to you by Zilla Cabs. Why is that? Suddenly, you're not...
that is fine.
Yeah, okay. It's fine. Yes, so Zilla are friends of ours. They make amazing cabinets. We, since the last broadcast, now have more Zillas in studio. We have a 4x12, but a vertical 4x12. So pretty much like, if you can see these on my screen, that's one of mine actually, that one in the middle there. That's a 15-inch 1x15 Fat Boy that just went past. And that's a vertical 4x12. And it sounds like an absolute monster. Let's just see if I can find a picture of it. They're not even particularly expensive. And they do ship to America. They ship to everywhere. There is... Oh, yeah. Show me the picture. I don't want to make a post about it. I just want to see it. Yeah, so that beast. That has an Alnico Cream, a V30. It also has a Redback and a G12 35XC, which is kind of like the Pulsonic Cone traditional greenbacks, but also just amazing. So check out Zilla Cabs. They make 2x12s, 1x12s, 4x12s. They make bass cabs. This particular cab that I got, as you can see here, it's got a picture front, so you can take the whole grill off if you're a recording guy. And it's also a front-loaded cab, so it's kind of like the old Sun cabs from the 70s, the Doom cabs. They do a lot of different things, and they do it to your colour spec, to your speaker spec, and they are real people who will get in contact with you on a one-to-one basis. There's no facelessness at Zilla, and they will help you out on a personal basis. And I personally couldn't ask much more. So that is why I go voting Zilla. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah.
Enough of the sales pitch. I mean, they're actually not paying me to say any of that yet. But anyway, so Fortin, I've got some new stuff. Chris, you're up.
Yeah. Not really heard anything of it yet. But we've got a Whitechapel pedal. This isn't a replacement for the 1433. This is a whole new thing, mainly because it's a different sound, and the cut sound and deep, the cut saw and deep even. It's it's a totally different setup. Like the 14 was just a one knob thing, so this is definitely something new. I want to hear it. I want to see what it is compared to other like 14 pedals like the Grind.
Oh, so it's a clean boost by the look of it, but the cut and the deep are EQ controls.
Yeah.
So you can add or cut more chunk and cut at the relative places. Yeah, and also I just saw, talking of the Sun cabs, because have you heard of Sunno, the Doom band?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're named after the amps they use, which are like the Doom classics, like the Sun Model T and stuff. Fortin are making a pedal called Fuzz. That Fuzz and that O, that's basically the Sun O logo. I actually have a Sun guitar, and it's one of my favourite guitars. But yeah, they're making a fuzz that's going to be a proper, by the look of it, proper doomy type thing. So
and it's at a good price as well, actually.
Yeah, it's a lot cheaper than most of them. It looks like quite a thin pedal.
Yeah.
And yeah, if it's thin, and apparently adds a girth control, adds massive low end thickness. So yeah. And it takes 9 to 24 volts as well, so literally whatever you feed it, it'll go. Must have some sort of voltage regulator inside. I would imagine that giving it more voltage won't do anything. Current draw 4 milliamps. So you practically don't need to give it anything. I have seen fuzzes that are completely passive. The 4 milliamps might just be for the LED to tell you whether it's on or not.
Probably is.
Probably. So we've talked about Boss's crazy stuff. Let's talk about another manufacturer who are very much friends of mine that I work with. There's Two Notes who I'm talking about, and of course the Audience Sono, which I've flashed up in front of the camera before and talked about at some length. So I'm not going to go on about that anymore, because if you want to know any more about that, we'll wait until I get to release the video, which I'm going to film the rest of Monday or Tuesday, get that edited and out before the actual unit is released, because they're not available yet, I don't think, but they're very, very close. Funny story, actually, about the Sono. This is the second unit that I've had. The first unit I had to send back because it was so early pre-production. They changed the circuit board layout. I plugged the reamp into one of my amps and plugged the USB into the laptop, and it was going. And it turned out that it was something they'd picked up on during testing and changed it all. But I was knocking the door down to get one of these that early that they sent me one of the units before that even got fixed.
You carry on. I'll be back in a minute.
Sure.
I just need to.
But yeah, typical me, because I do a lot of reamping and that kind of thing. That's one of the first things I did. And so, yeah, one of the first things I did was plug it in and it going... So I was like, yeah, great. But then I got in contact with the support team, and within like an hour they'd got back to me and were like, oh, right, that. Okay, let's sort that. So far, I have to say, I've had nothing but good experiences with this. It's the first time in years. This has got a monitor mix on, as a lot of interfaces in this kind of price bracket do, between DAW and just the raw inputs, also known as direct monitoring. Generally speaking, I hate direct monitoring. Can't stand it. Because there's no processing of any kind, no compression, no EQ, no nothing, and quite often if you've got two channels, they're hard panned left and right, which makes it useless. And so I always monitor through the DAW and just put up with that small amount of latency until this, because the tube and the power section and everything, and there's also a little bit of inbuilt reverb with the cab as well, that means that I actually wanted to hear that with zero latency and then just not monitor through the DAW and have it all recorded. And so that is the first time in forever that I've actually done that. I mean, aside from working in big studios on analog desks with actual like tracking hardware, that's a different story. I'm talking about tracking with a kind of home recording project studio level interface. Question from David Ross: what's the most bizarre recording technique you've ever used? Oh, I've done a few. Quite often on acoustic songs, I'll do got drums where we'll get a case of some kind and just bang our fists on it instead of a kick drum, because a kick drum's too big a sound for that song. Like if you've got someone playing acoustic and you just went bum chick bum chick bum chick bum chick, we'll get a tambourine and literally just go, but then on a separate track get a case of some kind and just go thump thump thump, because it doesn't resonate, it just has an organic feel. There's something. A few years back I was recording with a girl who was playing ukulele, and she decided halfway through the song we were doing that she wanted a trumpet part in the middle. We didn't have a trumpet player, so I just got her in front of the mic, and she, I said to her, well, how's it go? And she went, and so we recorded that, and I used the Waves Red, the EMI channel, the Beatles desk, and we drove it all the way and then backed some treble off and distorted it to the point where it sounded kind of like an old-timey recording of a trumpet. And that made it to the final recording. We just put a little bit of slapback delay on there, and there we go. So, yeah.
Hey,
question, if you've got any input on this that we've just had. Most bizarre recording technique that you've ever used?
I used a headphone out on a guitar amp.
That is bizarre. Do go on. Why?
I don't have an actual mic.
All right, okay.
So I was using a rolling cube.
Fair enough. The rolling cube's not
just
bad.
Figured
actually.
I was like, well, it's like a DI box, right? If you use it clean. No, it's not. Definitely not.
Yeah. Okay. Another thing from Two Notes. Then they announced, kind of not publicly before NAMM, but now is more public, is that if you have a Torpedo Live or a Torpedo Cab, which I have one of these here, they've updated the firmware, because it always used to be that you could have one cab with one mic on it. I've always been a studio engineer who likes having two mics on a cab because of the interaction between the two and the sound playoff that you can get. And now they've updated the firmware so you can have two mics on the same cab. And that's a huge plus for me. And to go hand in hand with that, they've just announced the Torpedo Cab M, which is a new unit that's about half the size of this. Doesn't have nearly as many controls on, doesn't have the pedals, because I think they realised that half of the guys who were doing this... Shush.
You bollocks it.
Went to enlarge a video and decided to make sound. Thanks, Facebook! And... so let's see if I can see it. Oh, I'll find a better quality. Yeah, RIP headphone users, by the way. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
The Torpedo Cab M is much smaller. It's got XLR out finally, which the Torpedo Cab does actually have balanced out as long as you use a TRS to XLR adapter. So I found out.
Yeah.
But that's not very intuitive at all, and you need to keep an adapter with you. So they've actually put that in the unit now, and the unit is controllable by Bluetooth. So you can change your cabinets up with your iPhone. They're making an app. So you can do it all, as a standalone thing. So it's much smaller and it's all remotely controllable, so I reckon that's going to make things a lot better for Two Notes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the Torpedo Cab is a great piece of kit, but having that technology, but now in a smaller, sleeker, easier.
Yeah, that's small. That is crazy small.
Yeah, it is literally half the size of this beast.
Yeah.
I mean, if you cut it down the middle, it's...
Yeah, exactly. It's got to sound fantastic still.
I think they got rid of...
I'm really happy about it.
They got rid of the pedals off it because, to be quite honest, you don't use them.
Well, exactly. I think this is what they've kind of realised, and I've just had a look at the price of it as well.
Go on.
£270.
Right, that's a good £150 or whatever less than this was.
Yeah. Exactly. It's trimming the fat. That's exactly what they needed to do. And
I think they're still selling the big boy for a while because some people want the MIDI functionality. But that's the only difference that they're losing. Yeah,
exactly. And to me, it's not a big deal. Like,
yeah. So, the other big announcement from Two Notes, so they've done a few big ones, is in conjunction with their friends at Rev Amps. So, let's see if I can find... I might have to actually go on the Rev page for that. Because this is going to be a bit of a game changer as well. I really, really like the new Rev G3 and G4 pedals. For me, the G4 is the one. But that's a personal preference thing. The G3 is really quite tight. The G4 is quite heavy. The D20 amp is the one that really catches the eye. It's a clean, slightly crunchy amp, 20-watt tube amp, that's got the Two Notes cab stuff inbuilt. So you can load up to 6 cabs into it and just switch between them on and off.
This is kind of crazy.
Yeah. So you don't need to plug it in to a cab at all. You can have it excuse me, you can have it be self-load boxing, so you can run a 20-watt tube head, so it's actually saturating the tubes and driving the tubes, and have the cab modeling on that.
Because it's great. I was surprised that it's not something like Two Notes have done a whole thing for themselves. I think it's great that they've done a conjunction with Rev.
Yes.
Like, this kind of collaboration is not expected. And
it caught me by surprise a bit.
It weren't two companies I thought would get in bed together, but yeah, I'm quite happy. I'm quite happy for them.
Can you run the Rev out at line level? Yes, you can. That is very much the point of the D20, as far as I can tell. That you can have it as a 20-watt head through a cabinet. It's got a switch on it that I've seen to make it a 4-watt. So you can still run an output and drive the pedals. So it's got 2 notes that comes out at line level, or I'm sure you can defeat that if you want. It's MIDI switchable as well. So it's a MIDI amp. But if you stick something like a G4 pedal in the front, all the metal comes straight back. See if I can find a picture of the back of it. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so balanced output. So I think you can defeat the 2 notes cab modeling. And so you can just run line level and then use something like the Wall of Sound software.
Well, yeah, pretty much.
Or whatever.
You got the USB as well.
Yeah, I don't know if you get sound over USB or whether that's just to control the Torpedo software.
Oh, right, okay.
But that's another thing I personally wouldn't use. Like I was talking about before with features that you pay more for that no one uses. Yeah. I mean, I know there would be exceptions. There's always an edge case where somebody goes, well, I'd use that. It's like, okay, but for you could probably just use a DI box or whatever that feature is. You know, anyway. Yeah, I've heard demos of the Rev D20 and it's very clean, but also it can grit up a little bit. And for me, an amp that can grit a little bit and just not get crunchy, but just on that breakup, that's where I like pedals. I like to run pedals into an amp where it's just on the brink of distorting, so that when you put a drive pedal into it, it's got some life. It's got some more valviness than just getting a pedal and running it into a DI box. So I'm very much looking forward to playing one of these. And like I say, fingers crossed, there's probably a small chance that I can get one of these for review, but that's not a promise. That's not, because I haven't talked to the guys at Rev yet, so that's just me going,
do that for us. Do that for us.
Yes.
The guitarists on YouTube, we should have Rev. Why aren't we on Rev?
Wondering, Dr. Nightgone is wondering if we can use the Rev as a replacement for something like a Line 6 500 or a Helix. I think that's kind of the point of it, So if we're talking about home recording, yes.
Right, it depends. It depends on the sense. So the Helix, you have multiple amp heads at the front as well. The rev's not changing the front end.
No, that's true.
So,
it is.
So the rev's staying there. That you're married into that rev front end. It's the cabs that we can mess with and change. So is it a direct replacement for the Helix stuff? I wouldn't say so, but this is kind of like the midpoint.
Yeah, but if you do like the sound of that clean rev preamp, this is where it gets interesting for me. Because what I could do, I keep talking about these Boss switchers.
Yep.
But if you had one of those, say, with something like a Rev G4 in one of the loops.
Yep.
So then what you could do is, if you wanted to run the speaker out in the Rev, you can, but if you don't, then just use the 2 notes. And what I might do myself is have a clean sound that's the same amp without the drive pedal, but maybe going through a 2x12 with a little bit of air and a bit of reverb. Then switch it so that when I get something like a G4 pedal with all the gain, it switches to a 4x12, really close mics, chugga chugga chugga. And that way,
that makes sense.
So he's saying he's not opposed to a one-trick pony of an amp as long as he can get a good high gain tone from it. And for me, half of a high gain tone is the cab. Half of. The other half, of course, is the amp and the drive. But if you were to say set a 2x12 amp model up and then try and drive it, unless it's like a Zilla 212, you're not really going to get that chugga 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 thing.
Yeah, I know where you're going with this. You're making those speakers move, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's
you
that's
could get that tone on your drive channel and then switch back to not for your clean channel, so you're not getting this big boomy death thing on your clean channel.
Yeah.
So I've never really liked clean amps through a 412 because to me it's just a bit tubby, a bit boomy, and it always sounds like it's not quite meant to be that way. But that's a thing for another day. But I think the fact that Rev have gone to the partnership with 2 Notes here to do that is...
This is great. Nice.
Yeah. Ooh, little modern feature on the back of the amp, the bias test points. A lot of modern amps, this is an absolute godsend for people like me, who've got technical knowledge, but I wouldn't want to be rooting around in the amp for bias test points.
Yeah.
What I would want really is, and I'm guessing inside the cover of this amp there will be a trim pot for bias.
Oh yeah, there will be. It'll be a pot.
So all you'd have to do is get your multimeter, stick the red in the red, the black in the black, measure the millivolts, and then with a screwdriver you change the bias on that pot until it reads what it's supposed to read. Yeah. And so someone who isn't afraid of the insides of an amp, but isn't really technical enough to read a schematic, that...
Yeah, there's a good midpoint.
Yes, it's enough of a modern feature that like an amp tech could do that 5 minutes before showtime rather than having to get a workbench out and swap components. Yeah, that's quite a nice little feature. Yeah, moving on. Yeah. You want to talk about the Bowden bass?
Yeah, so...
The Strandberg Bowden bass.
Yeah, the Strandberg, he's probably been working on this bass for about 3 or 4 years that I can track.
Yeah.
Top of my head. We've seen multiple. We saw it at last NAMM, the prototype.
Oh, yeah, we did.
And now it's actually been released, finally.
So it says out of stock on the website, but I think that just means available to order.
Yeah, this is pretty much, it's now here, join the waiting list, so you actually see it when it turns up. Yeah. I don't think they've gone into mass manufacturing. I could be wrong. Could be very wrong. But
so it's fan fret by the look of it, which is a big
it's all
plus.
multi-scale.
It is the typical Bowden shape as well.
Yeah, Nordstrand pickups, I believe. Dark Glass Electronics.
Oh.
Yeah, they all come with the dark glass capsule, I believe. Or that was the plan. Again,
I can't
might
see
be
any
remembering
details
fast
on
now.
the website about it.
If you just go into the bass tab on its own, there should be a whole explanation thing. But I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, we're getting 4 and 5 strings. No 6-string basses, but we'll survive, I'm sure.
To be fair, 6-string headless fan fret basses, you're talking custom shop at that point.
Yeah, it becomes very, very tactical when it comes to that level, because you're talking a lot of neck, but not a lot of body and a lot of weight. There's a lot going into it. So yeah, I wouldn't be doing a 6-string headless as a basic model anytime soon. And so yeah, it's finally happened for him.
Yeah, at a price.
Oh yeah.
So there's the prog and there's the classic. The prog's the slightly darker coloured one.
Yeah, so the slightly different pickups as well. It's still Nordstrom's, but it's not quite the same model.
They look like the custom design, because one of the pickups are on a slant, but the pole pieces are also slanted.
Yeah, so this could be Nordstrom's designed kind of thing for Stromberg, which I wouldn't be surprised at.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. But having had a headless bass, it's not something I think that I'll go back to, because you can't rock out with a headless. Because the weight isn't kind of, you can't throw it around. You end up stood there, and that's why you end up doing the whole tappy thing, because kind of the instrument makes you play a certain way. So guys like, I don't know, I'm guessing Plini's band are probably going to have one of these.
Yeah, God, what's he called, that bassist? He's a really good bassist as well. I can't remember what he's called. Simon Grove, that's it. Yeah, he's played for quite a few modern prog bands, and he's always rocking it. And yeah, super tight. He's been playing one of these for a while, actually. I think he was one of the ones that got one of the early prototypes. So yeah.
So Rev Amps. So yeah, we've already talked about Rev Amps. You wanted to talk about the Stirling Majesty as well, just briefly, didn't you?
Yeah. So Stirling doing a Majesty model now. Which
is designed very similarly by the look of it.
Thing for a long time. Yeah, it's been an early ball exclusive model for forever, and now it's finally made it to Stirling, which is the cheaper brand of Music Man.
Looking at it, a lot of the features are missing. Like it looks like the piezo pickup's not there.
Yep.
The bridge is a more basic type.
Yeah.
I'm only seeing a volume and a tone, I think.
Yeah, pickup switch, but
if none of those things are what you were looking for in a guitar, it could be quite a good way to get the level of quality of something like a Music Man without shelling out £3,000 or however much it is for the top-end Majesties.
Yeah, exactly. And we were talking, and it's all mahogany body. I think it's mahogany neck as well with a rosewood fingerboard. We're saying this is essentially a Les Paul.
Yeah, but much more modern. Yeah,
this is a double cut Les Paul.
It kind of is, yeah.
And I couldn't be happier, because they're also doing the 7-string model as well.
Oh,
of the Majesty, which is great.
So there were about £1,000, $1,000 ish price point, if not a bit less, which is still price. A lot, but not unobtainable.
It's still a lot. It's still a lot if you look at it in that picture. It's cheap as anything if you're looking at buying a Music Man anyway.
Yeah,
this is cheap.
Well, that's like Music Mans are like a Formula 1 car. You wouldn't get one as your first guitar unless you come from money. But once you're serious about guitar, I think it's quite reasonable, really.
Yeah. So.
Oh,
I want to see these, like, how they hold up in comparison to the Posher Brother.
Yes. I would imagine there's probably more setting up to do with the Stirling.
Yeah.
Not straight out the box, but over time I would imagine you'll need to straighten the neck out a little more and make sure the electronics are clean a little more often and that kind of.
Yeah, exactly. But if you compare this to the Music Man side, you've got $2,000 worth of upgrades you could do. On this. You can change that bridge to a much better bridge. You can change those tuners to locking tuners. You can change those pickups. You can change the electronics for a lot less than that extra $2,000, and it probably would sound damn good. So, that, like you said, that little bit of TLC on it, this could be amazing. Like, this could be probably one of the best guitars you'd ever play. But out of the box, this is a great start for into the Majesties.
Yes. Yeah, they're I think if I was younger and looking for a top tier guitar, this is the kind of thing I'd be looking at.
Oh yeah, this would have been my be all and end all.
Yeah.
If I was 15, 16, it's like, I'm gonna save up $1,000 on the guitar.
Yeah.
And Stirling had this out, I'd probably be aiming for one of these.
I mean, it's probably as well made, if not better made, than something like a USA Fender. I know that's heresy, but not talking custom shop. That's different. But in terms of standard models, these are probably made as well. And we come back to the old argument, which I talk about a lot, which is like guitars made overseas. Does something being made in USA automatically make it good? Or does something made in Korea or Japan or even Indonesia automatically make it bad? And I think there's a lot to it to do with not only the knowledge in a factory, but working to a price point.
Yeah.
It's like China's probably the best example. You can get some amazing guitars from China. You can get some awful guitars from China. But a lot of it's like, if I got a $600 guitar from China, it better damn well be really good. If I got a $100 guitar from China, the best I could probably say about it is, according to some people, it's a guitar.
Yeah.
A lot of these countries get a bad rap because cheap instruments come from them, when in fact it's the companies that have ordered the cheaper instruments that are working at those price points.
Exactly. A £200 Korean guitar. What are you expecting?
Yeah. Like PRS in their USA factory, for example, they take wood for the neck. They pick the pieces and to the exclusion of all else. They then sit them in a like temperature and humidity controlled warehouse for a year.
Yeah.
That's what you pay for, whereas something like, the Korean factory, they can't afford to do that at that price point.
No, exactly.
It's still going to be a very well-made guitar made by people who care about what they do, but there are certain extra lengths they can't go to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But then if you're asking them to make a guitar at a price point, that's what you're going to get. And this £1,000-ish price point for somewhere Stirling is Stirling made. That's not the World Music Instruments factory, is it? In Korea?
Might be.
Because that is where a lot of the ESP LTDs are made. That's where PRS's SE range is made. That's where Chapman Guitars Pro range is made. Not the basic model anymore. The Pro range is made in Korea. And they sell for almost £1,000. Chapman are interesting in that way, because they've now got the British standard, which is over £3,000 a guitar. They've got the...
You entered this whole kind of thing now, don't you? It's... What? is being British made great if you're British, English, American made if you're American. What about a Korean made guitar in Korea?
But that's the conversation. Is for me that the Chapman guitars, the British made ones, will be better, not because they are British,
no,
but because to justify making them in Britain, the price point is that much higher. That they then have to go to the extra mile with every detail to make it worth it for you.
Yeah.
Whereas something like, say, a standard USA Fender, I don't think is going to be much better, if any better, than one of the good Japanese models or one of the really good Korean models. Because the same level of luthiers put the same amount of care into it and time and accuracy. That something like a standard USA Fender, they're trading on the name of made in USA, man, therefore it's good.
Yeah.
But like I said, the exclusion of something like the custom shop, where that's where the experts take all the time to make the perfect instrument, I'll take that any day. I'll have that argument. But that's where things like Ibanez's Japanese custom shop, or ESP's Japanese custom shop, they're not made in the US, but you pay lots because the experts can take the time to do all the little details.
Yeah.
Like, wasn't one of your dream guitars one of the ESP customs?
Yes, this was an ESP Japanese. I believe it was the Sue Crying Star, the original, the 27 fret one. That was, I think it's about £2,500. It's like stupid amounts of yen.
Yeah.
But yeah, an ESP, a Japanese made ESP.
Yeah. Just good proof that it doesn't have to be American made or Canadian made in the case of Dingwall, or British made in the case of Chapman.
No, of course not. It's
a price point will be achieved through any means necessary, and that's why you get cheap guitars.
They'll find a way.
Yeah, it's not because the guitar brand doesn't care, it's because the customers demand something at the £200 range or the £300 range. They demand it, and therefore it has to turn up.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, let's finish with a couple of questions from the audience. Yep, so apparently Skype's just had an error, but I'm not going to click OK because it'll crash. You still there? Yeah?
Yeah. Sorry,
right, okay, yeah. So let's carry this on before Skype decides to die. One more from David Ross. What would you suggest as far as a VST drum kit? He's planning on recording metal progressive type music. Is Slate the way to go? Any thoughts on the Kurt Ballou kit as well? I've not heard the Kurt Ballou kit, so I couldn't comment on that one.
No.
For me, it's between the Toontrack Progressive Foundry. That's a hell of a kit. Or, for me, I use Slate Drums 5 quite a lot. It's got a character all its own. I do like the Get Good drum stuff, but basically you get the sound of Matt Halpin or nothing out of that. If that works for you, do it, because one hell of a sound is coming your way. But I like more versatility, but then I'm an engineer, so I'm going to look for that kind of thing, so I may not be the most reliable source.
Yeah, I think if you're writing, like you said, like progressive music, the Matt Halpin kit is probably the way to go via Get Good Drums. I would also check out the Stephen Slate Drum 5, the free preview that they're doing at the moment. It's like a timeless preview. Give that a shot, because that's probably got to be really good for you as well.
Oh yeah, because it's free. So there's also a Stephen Slate Drums 5 free.
Yes.
Isn't there? Which again has a limited number of drum kits, but get them both. Try them. See what works for you before you pay any money at all.
Yeah, exactly. And hopefully we will be making a video showing off these free kits and how you can get a really good sound out of it. We
Mm.
did it with the POW free kit, the MK Power Kit, I
Mm.
believe.
Oh, the MT Power
So,
Kit. I remember that. Yeah, it was
yeah.
good, solid. I'm going to see if I can get that running on the Raspberry Pi at some point.
I imagine you will.
Well, it's going to be tricky, actually, because this is the problem I've had with the Raspberry Pi update for anyone who's interested. I did part 1 of the series. I got Reaper running on the Raspberry Pi, but the reason that works is that the guys who make Reaper compiled a specific version of Reaper for the Raspberry Pi architecture.
Oh, okay.
But a lot of VST plugins are not made for that CPU architecture. So I'm trying to find a way to, like, on the fly, get them recompiled or something like that.
Yeah.
But if I can do that, we're off. We're off to the races. I just need to find that. And I'm sure it's out there, but it's just a case of finding the time to go Google diving and really get deep on it and find forums, find people who do this kind of stuff. Because with Linux, almost anything's possible in a command prompt. Wine is the main thing, as we were both drinking earlier, but wine on Linux is a Windows emulator of sorts, even though it stands for wine is not an emulator.
Yeah.
But then because the processors are completely different, that's where the extra leap comes in. Hopefully I'll get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, if it can get like a £35 Raspberry Pi with Reaper and MT Power Kit and that kind of thing running, and maybe the Audience Sono to do the amp models for me.
Oh, yeah.
Now we're talking. Yeah. So, yes. The other question we've had, I'll let you answer this one first, Chris. So, a guy called Sam says, "Hi, do you have any contacts or know people that are looking for a recording engineer? Because I'm studying to be a sound engineer." Yeah.
No.
No. Yeah. Sorry to burst the bubble, Sam, but you seem to have started to enter one of the most difficult industries to make a living in the entire world.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there was anything you could have said when I was younger, I'm going to be a fireman, I'm going to be a policeman, I'm going to be a sound engineer. Oh dear. I do know other sound engineers. None of them are looking for a partner or an intern or anything because none of us have the time. That's the main thing.
This is another thing with this industry. This is a cutthroat industry. It's very hard to find someone that you could work with on that level. I would personally say work on your own hustle, figure out how you're going to market, how you're going to make money, and then get someone to join you. Don't go looking. Don't try and pick up pieces. Make people want to join you.
Yeah. If you're studying to be a sound engineer and you've not already got a place somewhere, you're not going to get a place somewhere. That's the thing. Like,
No.
I went to Real World Studios in Wiltshire a while back, and there was an intern there, and the way he got his placement is he knew the people that ran the place. He would not have otherwise got that place. It's just kind of
I will go into it because I know why you're directing at me. How I joined with Adam years back was pretty much, it was luck that got me in. It was me that made me stay.
Yes. And
like I didn't go in there and then ride some coattails for 2 years. No. I recently spoke to someone about this. The idea, if you're gonna go and work in any company, you gotta make yourself essential. You've got to be one of the biggest cogs going, and no one notices. Because I did that with mine. That might be arrogant, and Ad can put me in my place.
It's completely true.
I made myself is pretty much, if I left, so much goes to crap.
Yeah.
So that's how you want to be. If you're going into this, you're working with some engineer, what you bringing to the table? If you're bringing in those clients, that's how you're going to stay. If you're bringing in knowledge, that's how you're going to stay. You're going to have to find some form of niche to make you essential. Because most engineers are crap at marketing themselves. I will
hold my hands up. I'm pretty terrible. I run a YouTube channel and I'm bad at marketing, for God's sake.
But if you go in there with the mindset, it's like, yeah, you're probably bare behind the desk, but I know how to get people in.
Yes.
That's how you go, okay, this is why we're talking.
Yes. Lesson number 1 to being a sound engineer. There is a lot more to being a sound engineer than sound engineering.
Yeah. Yeah, lesson 1 to being a sound engineer, take a marketing degree. Don't do sound engineering. You know, you figure it all out. You figure out your place. You figure out your style by doing it, not necessarily by learning it. But you learn what else you need to do once you leave uni, and that is probably one of the most crippling things for sound engineers is they don't have people skills. They don't know how to talk to people. They don't know who they need to even talk to in the business. You need to work on that now. You work on that now. You know how you're going to make yourself essential to a company. You're in. That's it.
And being multi-skilled can be a massive part of that.
Yeah, exactly. Because that adds to the whole thing of making yourself essential. Like, Adam is one of the best sound engineers I've worked with, but on a personal level, and obviously from his knowledge and how he teaches, but he was also fantastic at teaching me video. He's pretty much taught me Photoshop. If he wasn't there, that company would lose a video, an animator, and an audio engineer. You know, you lose so much by being multi-skilled. So yeah, as much as you're great on like sound, try being great on video. Try, you know, adding something else to the bill. Add something that a company's missing.
Yes.
So if you see these great studios that have got fantastic gear with fantastic people, you have to go in there and go, okay, but what are they crap at? If you already have that side and you go in there, it's like, yeah, I'm an engineer and I can make this happen. Here you go.
Oh, hello. You're back.
Self-essential. Right?
Lost you for a second there.
I'm going around in circles with this whole thing, but yeah, just make yourself essential to any business and you'll find a place.
Yes. And yeah, like we said originally, don't rely on anybody else. If you make yourself good enough that people are knocking on your door, that's where you really should be. Funny story. This week, I was talking to one of my old lecturers from university. I left over a decade ago. And when I graduated, I was a terrible sound engineer. Not compared to everybody else. Compared to everybody else in the year, I was probably in the top 5. I was a terrible sound engineer because when you've graduated, you know nothing. You think you know everything, but you kind of don't. And still, it's taken me this long to get where I am. And it's one of those things where I may be going back to the university to do a little bit of teaching, maybe, not confirmed. And the first thing we said was, like, so what's your experience? Because if I just said I recorded in a studio, the first thing he would have said to me was, yeah, but so does everybody else.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
There's no work for even someone like me with the YouTube channel and the successful studio, yada, 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 yada. There is nothing there because that's such a competitive thing. But then we were talking, I said, oh, well, I've done a bit of work in radio production and like live broadcasting. And he's like, oh, well, nobody else does that. You could teach that. And I've done quite a bit in live sound. Oh, you could teach that. I've done a bit in this field. I've done work with film. Oh, you could do the vision and sound stuff. And being that experienced in a broad field makes you the indispensable person. Because you get to the point where if the other people you work with go, I can't do X thing, who can I call? And your name comes up again and again and again. And when your name comes up a lot, that's when you get paid.
Yeah, exactly.
And that counts whether you're working for a company or whether you're freelance. When your name comes up a lot, yeah. Oh, yeah, so one of the guys in chat, well, David Ross said, sound engineering, the most amount of knowledge for the least amount of financial return on anything you could possibly do. Which I think is second only to maybe fishing, but yes.
Yeah, all right.
So, and Shishido says, how do you do it? Practice, practice, and more practice with real-world clients, right? Mostly, yes. Mostly, yes. And yeah, well, that's exactly it. As soon as I started working in the paid field, as it were, not just with sound engineering, but everything that I was doing, even vaguely related to it, my skill level went whoosh, because it had to. Because when the pressure's on, you start to take a step back and not go, what do I want to do? You start to go, what do they expect at the end?
Yeah.
You start to look at other examples of work in that field, and then you aim that way, and then you start to do your research of how did they get there, and then you aim that way, and that's how you get good, because then when you present it to your clients, they have something close to what they expected to have.
Yeah, exactly.
But they don't need to know that you were working these crazy 18-hour days pulling a rabbit out of a hat. They only need to know that at the end they got what they wanted.
Yeah.
Plus, fun fact, you get faster at what you do as you get better at it. First time I ever produced an EP for somebody, I think it took me like 4 weeks to mix it and do all that kind of stuff. I can now record an EP for a lot of bands, mix it and have it mastered by the end of day 2. And that is experience. That's doing it a lot. The old 10,000 hour thing, it's a cliche, but it's true. 10,000 hours, if that was an hour a day on average, is 30 years. So let's say 3 hours a day on average. That's 10 years. I've been doing this over 10 years. I've had a couple of days off, but not that many. But again, that's
break it down.
That's me being me. I don't do many days off. I do a lot of this as a 9-to-5 job as well, or odd hours, but 8-hour days, and the experience racks up slowly, but it does. And so, yes, going back to the do you have any contacts or know people that are looking for a sound engineer? Do I have contacts? Yes. Do I know people that are looking for a sound engineer? Unfortunately, no. And that may be a good place to leave today's show, because that's a good life lesson for any young sound engineer, is you have to go out and find it yourself, because no one's going to hand it to you. Not since the mid-90s. One last little anecdote that just before I go, and this is something that you'll relate to, Chris. When I started music production at university, there were maybe only 10 universities in the country doing it. The year above me, there were 40 students, 40. My year, there were 100 students, and the year below, there were 200 students. And that was in 2004. And the number of jobs in the industry has not gone up.
No, exactly. There's not more demand for us.
No. So you have to be so good.
I don't even think you have to be that good. I think you need to be able to hustle. I think you need to know how to talk to people. You need to make people go, you know what, this is the guy I want to work with. That's because majority, what you do on day 1 is probably what they expected day 7 to be. When you know your stuff. But you need to tell people that. You need to go, you know what, we're going to do this. We're going to get a cracking sound. It's going to be absolutely amazing. You need to sell it. You need to tell people. And you're in probably one of the best times to be able to contact people.
Yes.
You look up musicians on Facebook. You look them up on YouTube. You look them up on Twitter. You go, hey, that video you did sounds really good. You ever thought of recording it properly? And then they go, well, yeah, I think so. Well, why don't you come and down to me? Let's work together. We'll have a really good track. You know, you made that human contact. And, you know, yeah, you're probably not going to be able to charge £2,000 a day or whatever stupid amount you're thinking. You're not going to be at that stage, but you can put the hours in and make that work. So,
yes.
especially if you're starting, or even whilst you're still at uni, you know, most unis let you use the studio.
I think I was 18 when I recorded my first EP in a multi-million-pound studio, because it was available and I took advantage of the time. Yeah,
exactly. You're at the best stage of doing it. You've got no other commitments. You've got all the facilities. You've not got bills to pay for the studio or anything like that. Use it. Make yourself a great repertoire, a great website, and basically show what you can do straight away. And then go and find people. Go and find people that would give a damn, and then get them to give you money.
Yes, in that order.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. We should turn this into a how-to guide. But we'll do that another time.
Let me watch like 2 hours of like Gary Vee stuff, and I will just wail.
Yeah. Yes, and on that note, all right, I think we'll cut this there because it's nearly a 2-hour stream now. Gee whiz.
Yeah, I know. I am exhausted from this.
Yeah. So, yes, now we have poured our souls out to you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you in a few weeks for the next episode of the Hopcast. I've been Adam Steele.
I've been Chris.
And we'll see you very soon. Ta-ta.
Bye.
The videos, as you can find here, or check out our Facebook and Twitter, or our Patreon page, which helps us to make more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.